Should I read my letter of support in open forum?
Granddaughter.
It's already been provided to the commission, so
How old now?
you can
15
do
months.
at the commission's discretion, but probably during the public hearing would be most
Yeah,
appropriate.
now
It's
she's
just
starting to
beginning.
be
Yes,
aware
as part of
of-
when I ask if the public has any comments on the
okay.
filing.
All right,
Then it'll be in the right place in the minutes as well.
okay, beautiful,
Okay.
thank you so much.
So I'd like to open the Conservation Commission's meeting for Wednesday, October 26, 2022. The first item on the agenda is open forum. Do any members of the commission have anything for open forum? Matt?
I have a couple. I monitored the conservation restriction out at the Saltbox Farm this afternoon with a member of the Collins family and the CR monitor for the Sudbury Valley trustees. Everything looked good out there. We actually pulled a couple Pioneer glossy buckthorn plants as we were kind of just trekking through the woods. But overall, everything looked pretty good out there. I think that's all I have for open. Yes.
Okay. Members of the audience have any items for open forum? Nope. Okay. Then moving on to our next agenda item, a recommendation to the select board to fill the vacancy on the commission.
Yep.
So we've
Interviewed one candidate.
interviewed one candidate. We had another candidate who came back and said, no, he was not able to move forward at this time. So our one candidate was Noel Almeida.
Right.
I'll nominate Noel
I second that.
Almeida.
Okay. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
So you'll make a recommendation to the selectmen
Yes.
if they make the appointment?
Yes, for the commission, or for the select board's next meeting on November 15th.
Right, they just
So,
had one.
yeah, and November 8th is the state and town election, so they're not holding.
And you'll tell Noel that?
Yep,
Would you also tell him to find me and I'll walk him through the conflict of interest and all the other things he has to do?
Certainly.
Yeah, that's my job.
And no, he doesn't need to be at the, unless he wishes to, he doesn't have to be at the select board
He
meeting?
won't have been appointed,
No, at the select board meeting when they're,
I will check with the select board, I'm not sure.
Some
okay.
people
Usually,
didn't have most people go
I
into
know
the
when I did
audience.
it,
I
and
did.
if they might have had a question to ask, so you would think that he would want to be present in case
Yeah.
they had a question to ask him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, and I remember that as well.
Yeah, so that's how I always thought it should be.
Yeah, so,
It's probably prudent to recommend that he goes, but I'll check
Yeah.
with the town manager's office and let him know either way.
okay,
It's still zooming, right?
I don't know.
yes,
Yeah, they're still by Zoom.
they're still doing Zoom, so it's not like he's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
be in the room. Okay, so moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item, which is a public hearing for Lorzell, 14 Lawson Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 26, 2022, at 7:05 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Alan Loisel for removal of one white pine and 2 hemlocks and planting of at least 3 trees within 100 feet of Nanasset Lake and repointing of the retaining wall along the waterway at 14 Lawson Road.
Okay, good evening, if you tell us who you are.
Good evening, I'm Alan Loisel, 14 Lost Road. Nice to see many of your faces again.
Yeah, we're still here.
Yeah,
I can't believe you're still on.
A little over 28 and a half years.
It's like a
now.
record you're going for or something? It's gotta be
I
a
think
record.
I think I've met it.
you own it.
Congratulations.
I'm only on 22.
What's that?
I'm only on 22 years.
You're only on 22.
Don't you want consistency on your boards? You know?
Yes, yes.
Do,
So,
yeah.
you know,
Sounds like we have
consistency
nothing
is a
else to
good
do in
thing.
our life.
No. I think we serve
It's
well.
good to see you again too, and Ian. Haven't seen Bob around for a while. How's he doing?
Doing well, he's around.
Right, breathing? Good.
Very much so.
So you want to remove some trees?
Yeah, so, I sent a package out. The hemlocks are just, they're, one's dead, one's dying. I actually have a third one that's dying also, but we're not sure what we're gonna do with that, because it's kinda up in the wires, but, and that's way up by the road. It's well, way from 100 feet away. And those hemlocks are just, yeah, if you put them up there, I mean, they are literally, you can see feet away from my neighbor's house, right there. So, you know, he's obviously, or they are obviously concerned too, so, they just gotta go. And then the pine, it's, you can see how it's, on that picture there, how it's yarning. It's about 10 degrees out of plumb now. You know, every year it looks like it's going a little bit more. It's 20 feet from the house. Every time there's a big storm, branches come down, they've hit the patio, they've punched holes in our shed that's down by there. And we're just very, very concerned that, it's one of these days, especially now with the storms that we're starting to see, that it's, it will
I
come
lost
down.
10 big pines in a microburst here, so I know what that's like.
Well, right across the street, my neighbor had 18 pines fall on his house.
Wow.
And, yeah, it's the same storm that hit down by you guys. And then we had 2 big pines that came down into our yard. They were from our neighbors across the street. So, I mean, we live in a pine forest, so it's,
I used to live in a pine forest.
well, yeah, you used to live in a pine forest, so it's just, it's scary. And it's time. It really is time. I hate to do it because we like that tree. It's, it's shade, and, I climbed it when I was a kid and had tire swings in there for my kids, but it just has to go. So that's the tree. The way they're going to do that is all the equipment's going to be out on Lawson Road, and they're just going to cut it in sections, lift it up, and then bring it out there and process it. And they'll do that with the hemlocks too. So there'll be really no disturbance down there. And then the wall. I mean, we hopefully we'll get a full drawdown. But even if we don't get the full drawdown, if it only goes down like 4 feet, I'll have enough room. I'll have about 4 or 5 feet in front of the wall that I can actually get in there and do that. The mortars, I showed you the pictures on that. It's all eroded. That's in danger.
You're just gonna repoint it, or?
I'm just gonna repoint it. That's all. And I'll put stuff underneath there, plywood underneath there to catch any of the mortar that falls out, and that's it. That's basically what I'm doing.
You had also talked about planting replacement trees.
Correct, yeah. Actually, we planted 2 trees already, but we're gonna be planting 3 more. Somebody asked for where those are gonna be, so.
Thank you.
Okay.
I brought that. And Matthew had sent me the link to the website that suggests native trees, so, I mean, there's, every tree that we thought about using is in that list anyway, so we'll definitely pick a native tree from that list. We planted an elm this year, and then I don't know how, but a Japanese maple tree started growing in my rose garden, so I thought it was a weed. My wife said, no, so yeah, I was that. Yeah, I know that's not on the list.
I was gonna say, usually that's not on the
That
list.
just landed in my yard. I
Just
have no
have them
idea.
start growing. That's,
So, just
things
started
happen.
growing.
Nature.
Yeah.
Okay.
None of
Any,
these new trees are going where your septic system is or anything like that?
No, the septic system is where the B is in Lot B.
Okay, good.
It's up there by the road. That's a brand-new system that was put in a couple of years ago. And where the words lot are on there, there's actually a small grove of 5 white pines that are there that are also around 60, 70 feet tall. And I don't want to do anything with those. So, trying to keep some trees in some of the bigger trees on the lot, and those aren't endangering my house. They are my neighbors, so we'll see what happens there. But yeah, so pretty much up where the hemlock was, kind of over by where the pine tree was, and then behind the house.
okay.
I don't have any issue.
Any questions? No. Matt, you have anything?
I just had a couple of draft conditions for
Well-
the determination of applicability if the commission would
For the
like.
Well, I was
Conditional
gonna go to
negative.
the order. So, members of the audience have any comments or questions? Nope, okay. So, can I have a motion for conditional negative determination?
So moved.
Second, okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. That's it, so we'll sign it, and Matt will be in touch about when you can pick up the paperwork.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Nice to see
Take
you.
care, Alan.
Nice to see you.
And thanks for your service, especially you long-serving members.
Okay.
You still go to the club? You still go to the club? I still go down to the club.
The club, what? No. Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay. So motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to our 7:10 agenda item, a public hearing for Cody, 75 Groton Road.
Under Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 26, 2022, at 7:10 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the notice of intent application of Devin Cody for a reconfiguration of a paved driveway within 100 feet of a bordering vegetated wetland, and a portion of which is within 200 feet of a perennial stream at 75 Groton Road.
Good evening. Jeff Hannaford for the applicant at 75 Groton Road. You may recall, we were in April with regards to an RDA for the septic system. And at the time, I had explained that we had run into a very unique situation here where after surveying the lot, we found that the lot line was not where the owner and the neighbor had thought. It was some 20 to 25 feet over into my client's lot from where they thought, to the point where the previous septic system was half on the neighbor's lot. Once that was identified, in order to fit the septic system, the new septic system had to go where the existing gas service was. The owner talked to National Grid. They came out, they identified where they could move it to. That necessitated the removal of the pavement on the driveway to allow them to do their work. So the RDA that we filed in April was for the septic system itself and to show where the potential was for the gas service. Since then, the gas service is now in, it's been moved. We went out after that. We were able to do additional soil testing in the area where the gas service was. That allowed me to finalize the septic system design, and that's subsequently been approved by the Board of Health. So as far as the septic system is concerned, the RDA covers that work. What's happened is, and the reason we're here tonight with a notice of intent, is the owner, in the process of repaving the driveway, which has not started, because that won't be done until after the septic is in. He wanted to move the turnaround, an existing turnaround from one side of the driveway to the other. So the NOI was filed. Matt reviewed it. I've talked to him about it. And we are treating it as a riverfront project as well as buffer zone. It just so happened that the brook, I think it's Snake Meadow, where it approaches Route 40 in this area, there wasn't a definable channel that we could observe. I had originally thought I could rely on some GIS information. Matt looked at it and said that he didn't think that was appropriate. So what we've decided is to just say the edge of wetlands is the edge of riverfront. It's probably more like an oxbow type of situation. We know there's flow that goes under Route 40 through a culvert. It's just not as obvious as we would have liked to make a real definitive determination. So with that, I revised it to address riverfront issues. And that's the latest information that you have before you. Matt had given me some information to go over relative to that, so I wanted to talk about that tonight. In the riverfront, in the Rivers Act, relative to the riverfront, there is a section, 310 CMR 1058-5, which is titled Redevelopment within previously developed riverfront areas. So this is a candidate for that section, as there's an existing dwelling, driveway, et cetera. In that section, there's a list of paragraphs that need to be addressed for any proposed work under that section. Paragraph A requires the applicant to provide some sort of improvement over the existing situation with the proposed work. What we came up with is the fact that right now the runoff from this driveway goes towards the roadway. The topography between the driveway and the wetlands is such that there's a knoll between the two. So that does not allow any runoff to go from the driveway directly towards the resource area. It's redirected by that knoll and topography towards the roadway. So because of that, right now, there is nothing in the way of stormwater management for that runoff. So what I discussed with the applicant was that we should introduce something in the design to help mitigate that runoff, which would be an improvement over the existing. So we're proposing to put in a 2-foot wide stone infiltration trench on the down gradient or resource area side of the driveway to pick up the runoff that will do a couple of things. One is to potentially contain some of the contaminants, and also to provide some storage of the runoff in the void spacing in the stone, so that not all of the water is immediately discharged to the roadway, which is a concern towards when they talk about the value of the riverfront. One of them is floodplain storage. So this does allow some storage of the runoff as well as containing contaminants. With that, we also have the next item B, the second paragraph under that section. They ask about stormwater management. Again, this just so happens to be the issue that I just addressed, so we are actually complying with both A and B at the same time with that stone infiltration trench. Item C is states that the proposed work shall be no closer to the resource area than existing. This one was a bit of a conundrum. The reason being, if you look at a straight line distance between the proposed turnaround or repaved driveway and the resource area, that distance goes up and over the knoll or through the knoll. As I was pondering this late last night, I thought to myself that I kind of took a step back and said, wait a minute, if, because of the topography, since we can't anticipate any runoff going directly towards the resource area, and the issue with the work being pavement, impervious surface, generating runoff, my thought was, well, I think the true answer is the runoff being redirected in a way that's closer to the resource area than existing? And in my mind, it is not. It's still following the exact same path. As it doesn't matter where the turnaround is, all the runoff goes to the roadway first before it turns and makes its way to the resource area. So with respect to the runoff, I don't see it as any closer, but there's nothing in the regulation that it just simply says, is it closer? I've got to believe that the intent of that was so that you're not directing something directly towards the resource area than what's existing. You could picture it as, you know, if the runoff were going directly to the resource area, then sure. If you're moving closer, you're taking away the ability of the riverfront area to do its job. It has less distance, it has less of a chance to filter out contaminants, slow down the runoff. But in this case, that's not the situation. So with C, and what I did was, I looked at the closest point of the driveway to the resource area, and it happens to be right at the right-of-way where the driveway meets the road. And that dimension is 53 feet. The turnaround that we're talking about is 55 feet. So in that regard, it is further away than existing. The pavement in the existing pavement in the area of the proposed turnaround is further than 55 feet. So in that particular location, we are closer to the resource area, but we are no closer than the closest point of 53 feet, which is out at the road. And that, together with the distance and direction of travel of runoff, I felt that what we have does meet the intent of no closer. And then lastly, item D, they do ask that the proposed work be as far from the resource area as possible. Outside the riverfront would be perfect, but as I alluded to in the beginning with the issue we had with the property line location, having to move the septic system into the property where it belongs. The septic system is as narrow as I could get it. It has to be 10 feet from the property line, so we had to move the driveway so we're not on the leach field. So in that regards, we believe that we are as far as practical from the resource area. And again, if you measure the closest point of 53 feet, we have not exceeded that or decreased that.
Tough. Tough parameters.
Jim?
I have 3 questions. Maybe you could put up the plan that we just got today. That's one, okay. How long and what symbol on here actually reflects that stone trench?
Right here, Jim. I think I colored it in.
It's that
I
long?
think this is it, Jeff. Is this it?
What symbol are we looking for?
Yeah, if you see.
It's that.
Jim, on your plan, I don't know if
It's marked.
on your plan, there's an interior stone wall right here.
Right?
That's an interior wall. It starts right behind that and goes to the
The
right-of-way.
red up to the
So
street.
what symbol are we looking at?
It's hard to
This-
see, but there is a gravel.
If
See
you-
how
if
that
you
U
look at
goes,
the upper
Jim, and then
left
it goes all the
corner,
way to the
it shows-
street?
What symbol, the legend is lacking.
It just says 2-inch stone infiltration trench, see detail.
Right.
But you can see it's that
and it's
patch
it's
double
pointing-
dot.
Right, which goes all the way.
Right, no, and then
Yeah.
it hits that U and then it doubles
But I
back.
got the impression that this is a very short wall, only up by the roadway.
It is.
No, it goes,
Right there.
Let's say we have a difference of opinion already.
you can see it comes to the rock and there's,
And then goes back up.
Oh, yeah.
It's the
You
same
see
symbol.
this line? That's
So it's the same
that's
symbol
a
as the
2-foot
50
parallel line to this. That's where the stone trench is.
so in some cases, the edge of it is co-located with one of the other dimensions on the plan. Because there's,
This one?
if you look on the easterly side, there's a big heavy line, which kind of, in some cases, obscures where that edge of the stone trench is.
Right, what's happening is the 55-foot setback line is merging with the edge of driveway.
55-foot line, the same symbol as the stone trench?
Yes.
Oh,
Oh,
I think they're overlapping.
Well, they're parallel, there's two lines parallel, so I assume one of them is the storm trench and one is the 55-foot line, right? Right here, there's two of them. Dash, dot,
Right,
dot,
it happens
dash,
to be-
dot, dot.
Yep, right along the edge of the driveway.
Okay.
I just filled in between the two.
So do those two parallel lines represent the two sides of the trench?
Yes.
That's how I did it when I colored it in, yeah,
Okay.
so.
All right, so that's one question. Why did you change the turn to a different side and size, I guess? The turnabout?
Yep, that was the owner's desire.
Because it's closer than it,
You can imagine, this is a project, if you look at the test holes up in the right corner, the original testing we did was August of '21. So this is a project we're on 15 months. Just to give you a little backstory of the thinking here, young couple buys a house, they're raising a family, they had their first child a few months before we went out last year, and they had found out they have a failed septic system. So when I first met with them, I explained the situation and the process, and here we are over a year later. And so his thinking has turned towards, okay, he recognized this was not going to be a simple, straightforward process. As we've been going through everything, his mantra's been, I'm way into this more than I expected. I only want to do this once. And he's got a tree right next to the old turnaround he wants to save. A couple of other trees have had to come down. He doesn't want anything to do with the driveway to be anywhere near or potentially compromise this new system. Everything he's doing, which has been much more than
all right, so he
normal,
wants
is
to
all about,
move his driveway away from the septic.
he wants to get
Okay.
it away. The
All right.
septic system has been driving everything, and
Okay.
he said, I don't want to take a chance.
Third-
He asked me, and I said, and one thing I didn't bring up was, he wanted a bigger turnaround. And I said, because we're dealing with the Rivers Act, one of the things I need to comply with is you have a certain amount of impervious surface now. We don't want to exceed that. So I convinced him to cut down the turnaround such that the square footage of proposed is the same square footage as existing.
All right.
You're
The
fine.
next one has to do with the Presby system. On one of your plans that we got with our meeting packet, part of the, there's notes down in the bottom left-hand corner, there's they're unnumbered, but yeah, these notes here, half of the last one is missing on one of the plans. It's all here in this plan, but on another plan, it gets cut
just got cut off.
It gets cut off of the last line. I don't know why, the rev chart shows, but the last of your notes doesn't.
Oh.
And then, did you give any consideration to moving the septic fields further south, now that the turnaround is no longer there? By moving it to the south, you get it farther than the current 71 feet to the wetlands, and you shorten the underground runs on the piping. I looked at the gradients, and it doesn't look like that's a problem. It looks like it's relatively flat, or you're moving it along a slope, not up or down.
We did look at that. I did talk to Abby at the Board of Health. We reviewed the soil test results and agreed that moving it 4 feet was about as far as we felt comfortable due to the results of the soil tests. There's a lot of fill in the area. We did a test hole back by the turnaround, test hole 4, and the results weren't good. So we decided between the 6 test holes that were done when only 2 are normally required, that the system needed to be where it is, and that moving any further south put us in a situation where we may be uncovering something and having to stop the process in the middle and address it. We just felt this was the safest location. But we did look at that, Jim.
All right, thank you.
Eric?
So, this area where he wants to put the turnaround, and you have the issue with the impervious surface, why not use cobblestone? Then it wouldn't be impervious. And I see a lot of people using that as the beginning of their entrance in their driveway, you know, within the first 7 or 10 feet, and then they'll go with something harder. You know, you could, you know, keep the pavement and just make that portion, you know, cobblestone, and then it wouldn't be impervious, and then you wouldn't have that dilemma with the reg.
So exactly what you're
Well, you were
addressing.
you were trying to, you were saying, okay, you know, the basically the regulation for the riverfront doesn't want the impervious surface to be any closer, you know, when you're putting in this. And I'm like, well, you won't, the impervious surface, I understand what you did by pushing the roadway a little more this way to get it away from the septic. I get that. Your client wants a bump out. I get that. You're like, how do I comply with the regs and meet my client's wishes? So you were explaining to us how you thought that, you know, the regulation read and how you interpreted it. And I'm like, well, you know, regulation says they don't want it to be any the impervious surface to be any closer. So I'm saying, well, one way to get around that is, you know, to put a cobblestone there, and then it wouldn't be impervious, it would be pervious, and then it would be easier for us to say yes.
Okay.
And it would still give your client that turnaround in that area.
Do you
Okay.
feel that that satisfies section D, which is the proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside the riverfront area or toward the riverfront area boundary and away from the river?
Some compromise.
I'm you know, when this came, when the homeowner reached out originally to me because of the difference between what they wanted and what was approved in the determination of applicability from April 2022. These are the things that kept, you know, sticking out to me. You know, the work being closer. I understand Jeff is, you know, advocating for his client, you know, and, you know, but it's closer than the existing conditions. And I think that it's not so much the intent to, you know, maintain the stormwater capabilities, and it's, you know, just.
Well, he was
things-
talking about the stormwater and again bringing it down and then infiltrating it before it got to the street, and therefore that was going to be a benefit. And therefore, he was trying to compel us to believe that
Well, he
it
was
was,
trying
and
to
then we should
offset
have it.
I just, you know, this is why, you know, I thought a notice of intent, you know, was appropriate, whereas, you know, there are these, you know, criteria that do have to be achieved, you know, and complied with for the issuance
So
of the
you're
order.
saying regardless of whether, if it's
I-
pervious or
I-
impervious, it shouldn't be happening any closer.
Exactly.
Okay.
You know, it's work regardless of if.
That's
if
not
it's
the way
impervious.
I heard it.
Yeah, right, you know, so on, you know, you know, section C, within 200-foot riverfront areas, proposed work shall not be located closer to the river than existing conditions, or 100 feet, whichever is less, or not closer than existing conditions within 25 feet, except in accordance with the below sections. And then D, proposed work, including expansion of existing structures, shall be located outside the riverfront area or toward the riverfront area boundary and away from the river, except in accordance with the below standards. Those are, I mean, I've
So if we said no, and we denied that work, that bump out on that side, you know, they always would have the right to appeal it to DEP, and then DEP would have to look at its own regulation and make an interpretation as to whether or not the bump out was justified.
I've asked DEP if there are technical comments. It was assigned the 19th, and the environmental analyst will be reviewing it, picking up the plans, reviewing later this week. Question to Jeff: Have have the revised plans and letter and notice of intent been provided to the DEP Northeast office? Have the plans and?
Yes.
Those have gotten mailed to DEP?
No, I hand delivered.
Okay, that works.
But
Probably.
let me just say, let's take a step back here. The existing driveway is 53 feet from the resource area. That's a fact. What we're proposing is a driveway at 55 feet. Whether you're talking about the turnaround or the portion where the infiltration trench is, where we need to come down and meet up with the end of the existing driveway. We're not repaving all the way to the street. They left about a 20-foot strip of existing pavement that they'll be tying into. So, it's my contention that I'm not any closer. We agree that the driveway needs to be.
Well, you are closer with the driveway, so
You're
you can't
closer
say you're
where
not
the-
any closer, but then say you're closer. But I understand why you need to be closer with that driveway.
Right, if we eliminate the turnaround that I show, which I show is 55 feet, we all are in agreement that we're moving the other portion of the driveway to accommodate the septic system. That nearest point is also 55 feet. The existing is 53. So the turnaround, to me, or if you're going to say no on the turnaround, then you should be saying no on the entire driveway.
Well, you don't want us to say no on the drive, because we
It's the same dimension.
compel us to do that, 'cause I'm trying to find justification.
I mean.
I'm giving it to you. We're 55.
My other question is, can the run of pipe from the septic tank to the leaching area be of a material, more sturdy material than Schedule 40 PVC? Has this been, are there any engineering calcs for the load of, a turnaround, why that can't be there? I know the property owner expressed concern about parking on it, but there is an alternative, if this was new development in a riverfront area, we'd be looking at, an alternatives analysis. And, while there are the regs of, the commission under the bylaw and their rules and regs do allow for, an alternatives analysis if, to explore other opportunities for this project, to go forward. I don't, could a Schedule 80 pipe, could, there be, it be designed to support the load of.
What I heard is I didn't hear that, because I know you can engineer that, so that's easy enough to do. That's a given. It's not a question of whether it can or can't. They could do it. What I heard was there were trees that, somehow were going to affect it, and we didn't want to be over there.
Well, there's a tree, you can see there's a tree very close to the existing,
Existing turnaround,
yeah.
right here.
right there.
Here's the existing turnaround.
But the ability to put a load on that, not a problem. Put a plate on it. There's a lot of things you could do.
That's,
They do it all the time. We see it.
The question I have is, how is it that I'm trying to convey that the existing is 53 feet and I'm proposing 55, yet all I hear is that we are moving closer to the resource area than existing conditions when we are not.
That area of the driveway used to be farther away, now it's closer.
But it's not the closest point.
No, but it is
than it was.
closer.
Well, what we've done is we've increased the impervious area closer to the resource area. There's more impervious surface closer to the resource area than there was. And that's,
Again, if you measure it as the crow flies, but the only concern you could have in protecting the riverfront from impervious surface is runoff.
and what about infiltration?
But it doesn't say that in the reg. It doesn't go and make that further distinction. So that's your interpretation of where you think there should be,
How
some
that's measured.
latitude. But that reg doesn't, the way it's written is very specific, and I don't see where it provides that room for interpretation.
If you
And
read-
that's why I said, let the department make that determination. Maybe we put this off until they make their determination. I mean, because if we say something and, you don't like it, I'd rather hear what the state has to say.
How soon will that happen?
I don't know what their time frame is for reviewing it. Like I said, I knew they were heading into the office to pick up plans.
How long you can work. Which is now, almost the end of October.
No, but I mean, DEP is
Are you-
scheduled, DEP has scheduled somebody to look at this. This issue has been raised.
Yeah.
We raised our concerns. So, I think it appropriate for us to see what the state determination
Can you
is.
call and see how fast we can do that?
Yeah, I can certainly see, and encourage them to
Yeah, explain.
provide comments, by the end of next week,
be
so
great.
to be included in the commission's meeting.
be
I mean, I
next
hear
week.
everything Jeff is saying, but he's,
But knowing
giving
that,
himself some latitude in the regulation that I don't see. And I read state regulation all day, and if there was some latitude, usually they provide it, but it's pretty stringent.
but it's also the end of October, so with that in mind.
No, I get it, but
Okay,
still,
so if you
I don't
ask
wanna
them
do
to-
something and all of a sudden the state say no.
Right, I mean,
And then tell us all of a sudden,
We
no,
can make a
they,
phone-
they,
we can make a
appeal our
phone call.
determination.
We can make a
yep,
phone call.
I will
to see if
certainly
we can
inquire
do it.
and, encourage them to have technical comments. Another end of it is, do we want a peer review, would a peer review be, whereas have, an outside, someone outside of
just
this.
We want them to make a, determination on the reg to see if there's the latitude, and
Yeah.
I guess, Jeff, you've presented the argument, I guess, to the state, or when they looked at this, or the argument you presented to us?
I don't know that they've looked at it, but they have everything you have.
Okay, and there's some sort of description or something, that you provided to them to, seek the accommodation? So you present, okay, so
Right.
let's hear
Cover
what they
letter
have
has
to
been
say.
approved,
So
yeah.
can we put this on our agenda?
Yeah, I basically said the issue is runoff. And we're not increasing the runoff because we have the same square footage, and we're actually proposing to mitigate, to reduce it. And so it's just a conundrum where they say, you can't be any closer.
Yeah,
Well, to me, that's like, wait a minute, that just is a blanket statement that doesn't necessarily address different site conditions.
So let them
And we have
review
a
it and
site
make their
condition
determination.
with this
They'll do it.
topography
Can we put this on the
that
next-
tells me
Yes, we-
I'm not off base. But yeah, we should wait and get them to weigh in.
Because it's likely that their appeal of our decision is how this could,
Could tie this up even longer, so yeah, I think the
create more
most judicious
complications,
thing
so
is,
let's-
Proactive
is to
way
wait.
go.
yeah,
Right.
And put you on the next agenda.
okay.
yeah.
Yep, I haven't said no.
Cool.
I
Okay,
think
no, I'm
that's
just
wise.
trying to
Okay.
move us along here.
Oh, yeah.
So, any other comments or questions from the commission? Jeff, any other topics that we haven't talked about that need to be part of what we discussed tonight?
No, I just wanted to say that I spoke with the contractor who's going to install the septic system. And he wants to do that next week. Because that was covered under the RDA and because of the fact that it's the first week of November, he said he could get that done by the end of the second week of November. So I felt that I wanted to just notify you. As far as I'm concerned, if he's working under the RDA and they're not working on the driveway, that we can deal with this issue.
Well, the one thing I would say to that is, okay, if you do that and all of a sudden something happens, then it's like, kind of like a self-imposed hardship. And then I want,
And now and then if the commission, approves, ultimately approves it with the turnaround in the an expanded turnaround in the
Yeah.
location,
That's gonna be
you're gonna
tough.
be digging it up and putting in,
I
Schedule
know.
80.
And then, yeah, that piping that you were talking about, if it's not beefed up, if you have to put it there, then, yeah, you'd be ripping it out and putting it back in. You don't wanna be doing that.
I mean, they're doing
We
it
need a
at
whole-
their own risk that,
Listen, it's-
Yeah.
So you're not saying no, you're just saying,
When,
I'm
whereas
saying
Be
you could, there
forewarned.
could be a likelihood that, you know, you
Yeah.
might have to be tearing it up.
yeah,
Yep.
it may not be a good decision, is what you're hearing.
okay.
Okay.
How's your dog?
I thought you were trying to move this along.
It's a lot better off than this client.
Okay, so are there any comments or questions from the audience on this project? Okay,
Nothing.
so can I have a motion to continue the public hearing until November 9th?
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Jim?
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
You would-
Thanks,
okay.
Jeff.
Nothing to sign.
Huh?
Nothing to sign.
Yeah. So moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item. It's a request for certificate of compliance for the Akerdine De Silva Trail Footbridge by Chang. Ms. Chang?
Casey.
Yep. Good evening.
Evening,
For the record, your name is?
Veronica Chang. Yeah, I'm Veronica Chang. I'm from Troop 85009, it's a Girl Scout troop, and I came here a little while back to request approval to build a footbridge on the Akerdine de Silva Trail. So just a little recap. The original purpose was to combat flooding on the Akerdine de Silva Trail because it was right next to the Stony Brook. So if we go to the next slide, yeah. Mr. Fontaine was really kind and helped me with the building permit and designing the footbridge. And then my troop and friends helped to bring supplies in and build the footbridge. So on the two sides, it's just some pictures of us building, and in the middle is us taking stuff in. So yeah, next. Here are some just before and after photos. As you can see in the before, it's very flooded. There is a plank there to try to combat it, but it wasn't really helpful. And then the after photo, we have the footbridge. That picture was taken right after we built it. It's a little bit elevated so that if future flooding comes in, it won't get in the way of water. And yeah, thank you for approving the building of this bridge, and I hope you're happy with the results.
Thank you for building it.
Yes, thank you for building it.
I only have one question. Have you put a plaque out there with your name yet?
I have requested one of my friends to make a flag.
All right, good enough. I can look
Yeah.
at it. Take credit for it. That's all I want.
Right.
But I recommend the commission issue this certificate of compliance.
Thank you for doing this.
Yes.
Yes.
We're very happy with it.
So can I have a motion to issue a certificate of compliance for project DEP file number 334-1774?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you, sorry you had to wait so long.
That's no problem.
Okay. So moving on to our 7:25 PM agenda item, it's a public hearing for McManus, 230 Concord Road.
Under Massachusetts non-zoning wetlands bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, October 26, 2022, at 7:25 p.m. in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application for Daniel McManus for installation of an approximately 660 square foot deck with 11 sonotubes and after-the-fact approval for removal of existing 10x12 and 4x8 decks, a portion within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 230 Concord Road.
Good evening.
So this is,
Okay.
so this is built and we're seeking approval?
No.
Okay.
So, for the record, you are,
Dan McManus.
okay, and if you'd like to tell us about your project?
I'd like to build a replacement deck that is a bit larger than the previous decks, and I don't really know what else to say about it. It is larger. The old deck has already been removed, which is painful.
Yeah. We had the conversation about it the last meeting.
And
Do you have any plans with distances on them?
we just have the plan when the septic was replaced. That was included in the commission's meeting
Okay, that, we
packet.
could probably estimate distances and.
Right, the 100-foot, buffer from the pond is, through the sunroom, three-season room, that the porch is being built around. So, it's certainly outside, greater than 50 feet, which is why this is only filed under the town's bylaw and not the state's act, as it is exempt under 310 CMR 10.2B2E. As Mr. McManus described, the deck will be larger. Approximate, here's the plot plan. One comment at the site visit today, the proposed concrete pad that was proposed within the buffer is going to be relocated to the other side of it and outside the 100-foot buffer. And as described in the request for determination of applicability, any excess excavated materials will be utilized on the property outside of the 100-foot buffer.
So what's this closest sonotube?
The closest sonotube would be
Yes, right there.
and again,
Well, it's just, kind of can get an estimate,
yeah.
going out.
Excuse me. Probably no closer than 70 feet to the pond.
Yeah.
Again, it's consistent with, other requests the commission has.
And it's on existing, previously disturbed?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's lawn, it is a fenced-in backyard.
And it's fairly level, so we're not concerned about a lot of.
Yeah, runoff.
Runoff is disturbed. Okay,
I don't have any problem with this.
I don't see it.
no question. Questions or comments from the audience?
Susan McNeil Spooler, 232 Concord Road. Adam, as owners of 232 Concord Road, we abut 230 Concord Road, Westford, Massachusetts. Our neighbors, the McManus family, are trying to build a deck to replace the current one and add some reasonable square footage to complement the current configuration of their home. When our home, 232 Concord Road, was built in 1986, a man-made pond was constructed on the property to provide water in the event of a fire for both addresses. Closest fire hydrant or cistern is across the street on Cross Concord Road and down the street towards Carlisle Road, about 1,000 feet away. The construction of the deck at 230 Concord Road will have zero impact on the health and well-being of our pond, and we fully support any and all construction of said structure. Thank you very much for your time and consideration of this matter.
Thank you. Thank you for providing the information that shows how things will be during the construction process, because a lot of times that's when things, that's when we see our issues, is getting from point A to point B. So, can I have
Nope.
Okay, so,
Any other questions from the audience?
yeah, any other questions from the audience? No. Can I have a motion for a conditional negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Close the.
Yes. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing? Second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So Matt will be in touch about the paperwork and stuff.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Where am I? Next, we have the continuation of the public hearing for Archstone Builders LLC, 254 Concord Road, Lot A, 2A.
With the commission's approval from the last meeting, I sought 3 proposals for wetland delineation services, or confirmation of the wetland delineation performed by Hancock Associates. The lowest qualified response was from LEC for $2,700. If the commission reviewed the scope of services and Mr. Paragallo's resume certainly seems to have an abundance of experience in the matter, and I recommend the commission vote to authorize LEC to provide confirmation of the wetland delineation performed by Hancock Associates.
Can I have a motion that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
As included with the proposal, in order to keep this moving for the applicant, review is scheduled to be completed prior to the commission's November 9th meeting. So I would recommend the commission continue this to November 9th.
Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing till November 9th?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, moving on to our 7:35 PM agenda item. It's a continuation of public hearing and issue order of conditions for the Nabnasset Improvement Association for the sites at Elm Road, Lakeshore Drive North, Endmore Road, and 13 Wilson Lane. Good evening, and you are?
Rob Walter from the Nabnasset Improvement Association, at 62 Lakeshore Drive South.
Okay.
If I could start. So since the commission's last meeting, we did receive comments from the circuit rider of Mass DEP Nero. I followed up at the end of last week regarding the comments, because as the project is applicable under 10.53 F maybe, or H, for beach maintenance that was that were in existence prior to the enactment of the Wetlands Protection Act. This project does not need to meet the performance standards as of the resource areas with bordering land subject to flooding, as the commission experienced, as DEP appealed for 53 Elm Road, and so this was written, the revised draft conditions were prepared in the event that the performance standards still had to be met. There are a couple sections that I would like to, or maybe it's more so just the second finding. The commission finds that no net increase in sand volume at Sandy Beach or Mary Lou Beach will be added, so compensatory flood storage does not need to be provided in accordance with 310 CMR 10.574A. That was, again, a direct response to DEP's comments. Additionally, special condition number 34, I would recommend deleting, as that was a special condition that addressed said comment, said DEP comment. I still do think, in order to prevent the filling below of land under water bodies and waterways, special condition 35 is still applicable, that sand shall be added greater than 5 feet from the mean annual low water level to avoid altering land under water bodies and waterways. The commission or its agents shall confirm the mean annual low water level prior to the activity occurring to prevent alteration. And last but not least, in my preparation for the meeting tonight, in order for the commission to grant a order of conditions valid for greater than 3 years up to 5 years, a special condition, it explicitly states, the general condition explicitly states that a special condition shall be included specifying as such, and I would propose number 42, it's general condition 4B. I can pull that up on if anyone's curious. But 42, I'm adding.
So if you're taking out 35.
Right, no, I just want to remove the actual language of 35, but keep number 35 numbered.
You
Just
can
put
keep 35 and add 42.
Yes, and add
Okay.
42,
Yeah.
stating pursuant to general condition 4B, this order shall be valid for 5 years as the recurring maintenance activities to the beach areas qualifies as a limited project, 310 CMR 10.533H, pursuant to the Westford non-zoning wetlands bylaw, chapter 171, section 171-7B. The applicant may request to extend the order for up to 3 periods of up to 3 years each. Total 14 years. Probably a couple of you guys will still be around. That'd be great, thank you.
Okay.
For the commission.
So that works.
We're striking 34.
35.
Yeah, that's what I didn't understand either.
Yeah,
Yes, striking 34 and just, but leaving it, you know,
But
as
keeping
deleted.
the measurement at addition higher than that mean level, such that we're not filling the lake, in essence.
well, because there's two new, there's 34 and 35 that look new.
Yes.
And we're taking out 34, which would mean 35 became 30.
No,
No.
I'm deleting the text of 34 and inserting deleted.
The new
Oh,
red
okay.
text.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so we're not messing with the numbers.
Yes.
Okay,
We just added a 42,
That's
And
fine,
we
that's
added a
fine.
42.
For
Okay.
clarification.
any comments or questions from members of the commission?
No.
Questions from the audience?
Yes.
Yes.
Well-
So do we have to, when we add sand above 5 feet above the mean water line, do we have to remove an equal amount of sand?
No.
Oh,
Again, the performance standards of quartering and subject to flooding are not applicable as this is a limited project. That's great, that was something I worked with the circuit rider on
Okay.
understanding.
Any comments or questions from members of the audience?
One question.
Sure, come up to the microphone and identify yourself, please, for the record.
My name is Elizabeth Landry, and I live on 43 Elm Road.
Mhm.
I also serve on the board of directors with the NA, it's nice that you're on there. Having been at the previous meetings here, first of all, thank you all so much for your time. We really appreciate this coordination with our association. In regards to special conditions number 22, I think we had talked about the timeline, no more than 2 weeks and no less than 1 week prior to getting notification of some of the larger activities. I think we had talked about extending that time frame.
More than 4 weeks, I thought. That's- yeah.
Right, but the text still
Says
says 2
two.
weeks.
Yes, I will change that.
Change 2 to 4, yeah.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you very much.
Okay. So the outside limit on condition 22 is being changed from 2 weeks to 4 weeks?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay,
I also added, there's a additional parentheses that needs to be added in the first finding, but that's, just wanted it on the record.
okay. Rob, do you have any other comments or questions? Okay, so
We're fine.
we're all fine. Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as amended?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay, there's no other business. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to our next agenda item. This is a discussion on the interpretation of special condition number 45 for PEP and file number 334-1649 amended.
Hi, it's Rob Walter from 62 Lakeshore Drive South. And I want to thanks Matt for inspecting the silt fence that was installed in advance of the project to ensure that nothing leaks into the lake. Got a couple of questions. I did not see the frozen conditions requirement, which actually struck me as a little bit odd because in order to dig the retaining walls, the ground can't be frozen. So I'm hoping that, given the fact that we're here in the almost first week of November, that you'd grant an exception to that particular condition for the job that I'm doing. Is that possible?
You're gonna be building the retaining wall in the water right now?
No, the water's actually receded lower than the work that's being done. So there's no work that's being done lower than the water level. So you can see the pictures right there. We're gonna remove that last section of fence with the permission of the Nabnasset Improvement Association. We're gonna take the mini excavator in through that particular section, and it's gonna go along. Both property owners to my right from my property facing the lake have granted me permission to take the equipment across. In fact, Jeff was here, I think, last session. He's having his done, I think, simultaneously as he's having his trees taken care of. So we're actually not going to be really in the too much of the sand area, because we're going to go right along that, what you see, and then we're actually going to cut up. See where those trees? Yes, right there. We're going to cut directly up into my property right there. So I'm hoping that there's no issue with doing so. The commission's thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, normally, our concern is with a drawdown, how long it takes the moisture in the soil to kind of dissipate so that you're not dealing with a soggy soil condition where your equipment might get stuck. But I can also, think about the point that says, okay, if everything's frozen solid, how do you dig?
But here, if you look at the first picture, you can see where the high water mark kind of was. Go back.
No, a couple more.
Yeah, you can see the stain on the bottom of the. There we go. Yep, you can see the stain on the bottom of the far post.
Yep.
That was pretty much the high water mark. So everything to the left of that's been evaporated already. So the soil's pretty compact.
So what type of, I mean, this is a pretty light excavator just with track, or?
Right. And in a Bobcat, it's both. They're very light vehicles,
Yeah.
designed specifically for this sort of work. And I've assured both of my neighbors that should there be any tracks per se, that I personally rake them up myself to make sure that it's as it was before the job's done.
I don't have a problem with that.
Again, my only,
Yeah,
my review of the special condition, said frozen conditions, and that's why I wanted it to come to the commission for their thoughts. I appreciate, the thought that the homeowner has put into, kind of the timing of everything is certainly, the order of it, and, it has been, 2016, I think the original order was issued, so,
This is a once in a 16-year opportunity for me to remove all of those creosote railroad ties.
Yeah, I'm good with it.
Me too.
Okay, so,
Just a couple of other quick questions.
Sure.
Before we close things out. Can we work on Sundays, or is that prohibited?
Yeah.
Is there any other town regulation that says you can't?
Not
that I'm aware of.
I think they only allow
Maybe it's
trade.
just hours of operation,
Yeah.
you can't start before 7 or something?
Yeah, but,
Yeah.
and that's really, I feel like that's with building permits and, kind of under the building department
Okay.
and the building
I don't think
commissioners.
there's anything out there.
Yeah, but, if it's a homeowner working on.
Everybody's starting at 7.
Yeah.
Running against the frost.
Every day.
Just respect your neighbors, I guess.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the area between the two walls, the inside wall and the outside wall, it says to put grass seed down. It's not gonna germinate, but is that still okay, or is there an impervious, like, gravel I should put down, or?
well, if it's gonna be grass, could you just put a jute mat or something on it?
You just mean for timing for the.
You won't be able to germinate grass on it.
You're not saying long term, you're just saying, over winter.
Right.
Yeah, jute netting, it's kind of just,
Yeah, the whole
Anti-
time in place.
line,
Yeah.
just, that's used, they used it on 495.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
Okay.
So do we need to do a motion to, related to the wording, in the special condition in terms of,
Given that the project will be done during a period of low water drawdown, the project can proceed without frozen ground conditions. How's that?
okay, can I have a second?
Second to that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.
All right,
very
thank
much.
you.
You're welcome. Thanks for your hard work. A lot of work.
Okay. Continuing to our 7:40 PM agenda item, it's continuation of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for O'Neill, 74 Lakeshore Drive North. Good evening.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Dan Doherty here with the Brian and Leslie O'Neill, owners of Rachel property in question. I think there are questions that we had the last time. You wanted to show the property with the old versus the new, right? I think we've done that, so, and I think we're kind of looking towards any kind of other considerations that the board may have, if they wanted to change anything, so we can get our order of conditions and get kind of going. So.
Now, on this project plan that you've given us, is there are replacement trees that are going to be planted for the ones that were damaged by the fire and have
Yes,
been taken down?
those have already been taken down, and we, you know, the plan schedule, I think as I mentioned before, we will do a plan schedule with Matt. Obviously, that would be in the spring. That wouldn't happen now because of.
Well, we're just kind of interested in where on the site the plan would be to put the trees.
I think they'd be in similar spots to where they were.
Where the removed trees were?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they're gonna put it right in the middle of a view, but.
No, but it just, you know, is.
So let's just say that we can just say that they're planted in the approximate location of the previous trees that were removed.
Yeah, but usually we just kind of say, okay, well, where are the trees
Yeah.
gonna go?
Oh, yeah, we always have,
Yes,
yeah.
And dotting the I and crossing the T.
Yep.
So, okay.
And just one thing for the owners and Dan. Special condition 44 does have the typical note that between December 1st and April 1st is accept the permission of the Conservation Commission or its agent following written request.
First of all, we didn't get a draft.
I didn't send you the draft, did I?
No, the only I was gonna get one either, so I'm here kind of trying to see my face tonight.
I'll get one. I'll get it.
I figured it was pretty standard stuff. If you neglected to send it.
Do you want me to give him mine?
Yeah, I'll give them mine.
And if you take one of those extra pieces of paper on there, maybe you give them the green cover, you could make your written request toward.
Oh, yeah, all right, yeah.
Yeah.
So that would work for the
Request to work out the
Not a bad idea, and then you'll have to come back.
Yeah.
Yep,
Save yourself.
They don't need to come back, they just need to request.
right.
It's the process, again, this is, you know, we're back
Oh,
to
you
the.
can write it now.
The people that.
Good idea.
Scribbling it down as we speak.
Yeah.
Can't imagine.
I guess what I'm.
Requesting permission to work after December 1st.
Well, yeah, let's get the order.
And then indicate what type of work to be done, whether it's digging or.
Well, before we go there, do you have any
framing or
more
whatever.
questions in regards to the plan?
Right,
I didn't, do you?
I don't.
I don't have anything.
nope.
Okay.
I think this is all
Just
standard
as
stuff,
order
right?
conditions now.
Yeah, well, he's reading for the first time.
Yeah, I'm actually afraid of it. Okay, I'll take him at his word.
Yeah, Attorney Salem, you know.
Okay, so can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions as amended?
So moved.
Well, actually.
What?
You haven't amended anything.
He just highlighted some things in red, that's all.
Yeah,
But this is the
okay.
first version.
So issue the order of conditions.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion to close the public hearing.
Does he need to make his request before we do so?
No, because that's independent of the public hearing.
Okay.
Move to
So
close
moved.
the, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All of this is good.
All right.
All right.
I have a request to work in the winter months just to demo, put in foundation and backfill and stabilize, as requested by the
Fancy enough?
builder.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That worked.
Yep,
We're good.
we're good.
All right. If I have any problems, I'm gonna take that with you, Matthew.
Yeah, take up with you.
Yeah.
I thank,
We can fix it.
I thank you and the O'Neills, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Maybe get back in soon.
So something to sign?
Oh, not me.
No, no.
Just us. Okay. So, Next on the agenda is our 7:45 PM agenda item. It's a discussion with the Westford Community Garden at the Day Agricultural Land, allowing fencing to remain up over the winter. Good evening. For the record, you are?
Darren Testadu.
I'm Shannon Taylor.
We are the coordinators for the Westford Community Gardens at Granville Road.
And you want to leave the fence up over there?
Well, we hadn't had a long discussion about this before we emailed and started talking about it. But we would like to request approval to build a permanent, more sustainable fence around 7/8 of the Westford Community Gardens at Granville Road. The purpose is to provide better protection for the gardeners' crops against wildlife, as well as reduce the total amount of volunteer labor required to install, remove, and maintain the fence throughout the years. This would initially have a larger investment, but help reduce the cost of maintaining the temporary fence over time as well. So the reason we said 7/8 is it would leave one section open for the town to come in and do any of the jobs that they need, whether it's the tilling, wood chips, anybody that comes in for compost. So we would leave the 1/8 section from the main fence. I'm sorry, I don't have a picture of the garden.
Bring up GIS.
Sure.
Yeah.
Let's go find it on.
Is it a fence that would open and close?
It's
No,
pyramid.
so there are gates.
They open. That's
Yes.
interesting, that's interesting.
So
Okay.
right now there are posts, and we have to temporarily put up a temporary fence every year. So yes, so if you look at,
Pointer,
orange
the orange button.
don't look at it.
Bingo.
Okay, so you can see where the two sheds are.
Yes.
Right there. So that section between the main gate, right there, and the edge, right there, would be left open. And that we would put up a temporary fence in just that section every year like we've been doing all these years. The rest of it would get a permanent fence around it.
Okay, yeah.
And design of that permanent fence, are you chain link or?
We
what are you
haven't
thinking?
discussed that yet. Somebody, we were talking to another previous coordinator, Lizzie, and she mentioned something like turkey wire or something like that. It's something that it's stronger, but it would also, it would be able to sustain and go through the winters, and take the weather. And we haven't done that much research yet, so I apologize for that.
'Cause one of the things that had come up last year is where the farmer leases that other portion is for the land, starting at, actually, can I have the?
That's the pointer.
So, from approximately here, around the edge of the tilled area to about here, the farmer had put up, probably about 4 or 5 foot high, mesh fencing, basically so that the deer kind of get trained that they can't just walk through there. And she left it up over winter. And so I think the deer can certainly get in, but they can easily get out. And so now we're kind of getting to the point of, can we apply similar concepts at the community garden? And Jim, you have a question?
With that topic that you were talking about, animals being able to get in and not being able to get out, the only time that temporary segment that you're talking about will be in place is,
Garden opening early May until garden closing early October.
but it'll be open, if it's open the rest of the time, that, what I'm concerned about is animals getting in there and then not being able to.
Not figuring out to go out the way they
So
came
if
in.
the fencing was left there, except for the time when the town comes in for mulching or tilling or whatever, that would be good.
So what you're saying is we would kind of change things so that wildlife could not,
Wouldn't be able to get in.
Get in.
Right.
so that,
But we would take it down for the week that the town would till the soil or
So
or
that-
whatever else they do.
so things like deer that would walk in, wouldn't walk in.
Right.
If there was something like a turkey that flew and landed in, the
They're
turkey
gonna
would have
fly
to.
out
Have
again.
to
They'd
fly
have to
out.
figure out how to fly out, they couldn't walk out.
We were suggesting 7/8 because it said in the documentation about having wildlife be able to go through, and we knew
Yeah.
how hers wasn't enclosed, so we're like, okay, we can't enclose it. If you're suggesting we put a full permanent fence with just a large gate,
Well, I'm
I mean, my other thought was also, two sections of the temporary fence, so
That would be fun,
things.
that would be good.
Yeah, so you're not getting,
If
so,
we were gonna have an open one, we wouldn't want it to be the back, cause that's the perennial section.
Which isn't.
yeah, I mean,
Which isn't
just,
tilled, really doesn't need any of the town usage, so if we were gonna open a different section, we would prefer it to be on one of the sides.
right, but so that, anything that
That would
does
be
get in, I'm just, thinking of predator prey and predators, now I have it cornered. Yeah, now I've got it caught in the
So
corner.
maybe this section, and then,
One of the long, ones. I
this
mean,
section
yeah,
here,
I
so
mean,
that the in and outs are near the woods, as opposed to
Good.
maybe the second out, you don't wanna necessarily have them going out here, but if the way in and the way out are closest to the wooded sections.
Yes, so something like, the orange. Yeah, so down here, and then, so something along this edge, two sections along this edge, not there.
And not, sections that are
Not
not
sec-
contiguous.
Right, not contiguous.
Yeah, so that, there is still a little bit of a wander
That I
path,
think gives the animals the best chance of
not getting trapped.
not panicking inside and not finding a way out. you know?
Yeah. And doing a lot of damage. Okay,
So 6/8,
so,
not contiguous.
yeah. So does this require an alteration, an amendment of the MOU?
I think it would be good to revise it, but also to revise it based upon the discussion tonight and, kind of get a little bit more, include a little bit of the details, which, because they're talking about, fence posts may remain from season to season. Well, now we're using the fence posts with.
So you wanna revise this and bring it back?
Yeah, just, we'll clean it up and, just bring it back for the commission's consideration, but based upon, you incorporate the conversation tonight.
But that would work.
That work for you?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent.
Good.
Put them on our next meeting, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, it very well
Yeah.
could just be a discussion, we'll work out the language and,
Yeah, and we'll just
you're happy with it.
sign it when you're ready, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Was there any, so with, when Matt had talked to, the Public Works Department, they had talked about fencing being left out over winter is likely to be subject to the elements. Are you planning to change the type of fencing you're using to stand up to year-round conditions?
Yes, we will look to get something proper that can handle all of that.
Okay.
And then we'll continue to use the temporary that we have to put up during the season in two sections, and then bring it down.
Okay, now, you talked about volunteer labor putting up the fence. Who is it?
It's volunteer of the gardeners and.
So it's not the Public Works that are, they may store the fencing.
They
here.
store it, they do
But
not
they
put it
don't.
up for us, yes.
Okay,
And this is the first year they're storing the rodent fence. It used to be just a deer fence, but because we got extra equipment and stuff like that, as far as room in the sheds, it was very tight.
okay. Okay,
Works.
yeah.
Yeah, and then just also, I mean, I don't know what your thoughts are on funding it, but CPC probably is coming up very quickly.
Yeah.
Maybe.
What's
I sit on
CPC?
CPC, that's why I
Community
said
preservation.
in
In
December,
terms of covering the cost of.
Let her do this. Go ahead.
in December, we have an evening, I'm not sure if I have it in my book here or not, I think I do. But it will be publicized, you can look on the CPC page. And people come before us and just talk about the
Community
needs.
Preservation Committee.
I'm sorry. People come before us to express what needs they might have. And so you can say that's something, that you might be interested in applying for. There are also explanations about, the application and different things, so that if you wanted to fund it through CPC, and if you felt it was eligible, that might be a way for you to get your funding.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And if you pull your application together and.
Yeah, you have to have it by January.
Prior to the needs assessment, we can certainly, vote to support.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
gotta
we're
be a
looking
pretty
for a
simple
letter
thing
to
to put
attach.
together, it's not complex at all.
Yeah.
And if you have trouble putting your application together, I work at Town Hall, and you can also ask the administrator of the CPC, but it'll be all on the page there.
Okay,
Okay.
that's very helpful, thank you.
Thank you
And
very much.
Elizabeth Almeida would know what to do in that too.
Okay, great.
We're good.
I'll
Okay.
put stuff up for the, work with, change some language, see, we can find something that works and get it back.
Get it back to us.
Okay.
Sign up.
Okay.
Night.
The ninth,
11.
November ninth.
Yeah, I've been having, 11 9. I've been having a hard
No,
time.
no, no.
I've been saying like 9, I've been doing like 9 9, and I'm like, I can't go back in time. I don't know. So.
Okay.
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 Thank you very much.
Okay.
Appreciate everything.
Yes.
Have a good night.
So moving on to our discussion and action items. Sycamore cypress planting.
I sent a letter to the neighbor at 2 Cypress, letting him know that the plantings were to be done this week. I haven't swung out there yet.
I was there a couple hours ago, they're not done.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's also been raining all week, the benefit of the doubt on this one.
The ground's gonna freeze soon.
But
It's 516 days, in case anybody was
Oh my
wondering.
God.
I wasn't.
Okay.
But the neighbor at 2 Cypress was very supportive of the plantings, also wanted to do some more, and I may be exploring, putting down like a wildflower seed mix in because I think the previous owners had that area as lawn, but he was looking to kind of have some
A buffer to the road, good.
well, buffer for the back, to kind
Good,
of
that would be great.
from the back. And I was like, all right, I got the contact information, so we can,
Awesome.
certainly coordinate and, work towards that.
Now, the plantings that you requested or purchased are still sitting at, over on,
Yeah.
whatever, at the nursery over in Chelmsford there, right?
A little bit.
Littleton.
Littleton, okay.
Yeah.
They've been there now for like 3 weeks.
They're going to be planted.
Are they gonna live?
Yes.
It's nice out, it's in the 60s right now.
Yeah, I mean, this
That
is.
was only through
Okay,
tomorrow.
let's,
It'll be fine.
okay, let's move on.
Okay, so, the next is the acceptance of the Colonel Rolls trail easement.
This is another trail easement for another subdivision that has recently been approved in town. This is for the corner of Colonel Rolls, Upper Colonel Rolls Drive. The trail easement continues from Colonel Rolls Drive out to the parcel, the open space parcel, and the trail that continues down from the commission's property on the Kloppenberg Trail. There's also a small little portion of easement on parcel F that from the end of the cul-de-sac that gets into the Kloppenberg parcel. This was approved by the select board at their meeting last night, contingent upon the commission's approval. I would recommend the commission accept the trail easement.
Now, this one here that you mentioned from the cul-de-sac,
Yeah.
it's just that, it's an easement, it's not a piece of property.
No, it's an easement across this parcel F.
Okay,
So-
so it's an easement, the two owners own it to a certain property line, but people have the rights to
No,
pass it.
the people own to a line.
Oh, there's
It's
property,
This little sliver of a parcel.
okay, that's likely to disappear.
Yeah.
That's what happens with all
I
those
think-
ones
I
between
think
houses,
we-
people cut up right up to
No,
it.
I think again, the commission doesn't own the parcel, it's just a trail, it's an easement.
Oh, that's what I was asking, if it's just an easement, then
It's an
they
easement.
own the property, but people are allowed to use
The
it,
homeowners association owns the property.
okay?
So that'll be in
But-
perpetuity.
Right, and that's in perpetuity.
And that would be
The easement's in
plans.
perpetuity.
That would be
To
in
passively
plans.
pass over it. I think in the subdivision approval, we requested, some form of actual, fencing or, a split rail fence, much like, Cloverleaf, with the trail going out back. Have
Yes,
some
because
form
there's
of.
proposed
So kind of demarcation.
post and rail fence.
Yeah, proposed post and rail fence. There we go.
Yeah, you can't really see it.
Oh, yeah, how about that?
We have,
Perfect.
Sometimes we think it's.
Perfect. Great.
We learned from what didn't go well
I know,
last time.
we've had that problem in other places, yeah.
So,
Yes.
I recommend that
So-
the commission accept this.
Good.
Can I have a motion to accept the trail easement, for Colonel Rolls
So
Drive?
Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Moving on to the,
I think we did this, didn't we?
I thought we did it last time.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
and that was just for the, dates of it.
Mhm.
I would, like to request the commission, remove the March 8th date. It is a Hindu holiday.
Okay,
and,
That's okay with me.
So,
You can change that?
Just, remove it and, accept it without the March 8th date and March 8th meeting date, and we will, post this on our website for the public to know when we're meeting.
So will we add another meeting then, in the month of March?
I wasn't thinking.
Okay, it's fine, unless we're in trouble, okay. If we have something pressing, okay.
I mean, yeah.
So we'll have one meeting in that month, that's all I'm asking.
Yeah,
Okay.
so we don't mess up other boards by jockeying.
Do you want a motion for that?
Can I have a motion to,
Accept the new dates?
approve the updated meeting dates and, deadline dates
So moved.
For 2023.
for 2023 as
So moved.
amended or updated? So we have a motion, I have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So moving on to the minutes for October 12th, 2022. Yes, Jim?
Don't have a comment to change anything in the minutes, but I talked to Matt about, on page 2, 6 Lakeshore Drive South, there was the construction of a shed in the right-of-way, remember that discussion? And we left it that Matt was gonna talk to the building commissioner and let them know that there was a building in the right-of-way, and it was up to them to do whatever they're gonna do. Matt did that, so I think we're done.
Okay, that
I'll
doesn't
find-
change the minutes, right?
Nope, the
I'll
minutes are
find the email and include it in the.
Okay, that'd be great.
The minutes are good.
Yeah, I have no problem.
Move to approve.
I did have, two, additions to the minutes under, okay,
Where?
on page 3, under 254A, I added language to explain why we were doing a third-party review of the wetlands delineation, because it's based solely on soils rather, normally we have soils and vegetation, and I really wanted to make it clear that the reason we were doing a third-party review was because there was no vegetation. So kind of making a note posterity, this is why in this case we went with the third-party review as opposed to what we normally do.
Okay.
And then on page 5, talking about removing trees to increase solar capacity, there was talk about discussing from many different angles, and I just wanted to kind of make a note that said the additional angles included additional, the potential need for additional tree work during the lifespan of the solar panels and potential implications to adjacent property owners, to really make clear that we're not just thinking solely about the site and solely about today. It's, there's other implications that we have to consider as well, and I just wanted to make sure those got noted. So if there are
As
no,
amended.
so if there are no further comments or amendments or whatever's, can I have a motion to approve the minutes of the October 12th, 2022 meeting as amended?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, executive session minutes.
We had some.
It was, yeah, it was.
Was that
It was
We sent it
maybe.
separate.
I saw it.
I didn't have anything
Okay, now
on that at all. I didn't have
Okay.
any comments on that at all.
So a motion to approve the executive session.
Well, why wouldn't we release these?
Executive session because
Because we
we
haven't.
may not be
finished all the
done with what we were
negotiations.
discussing.
I thought that, based on our minutes and our discussions at that meeting, I thought we did reach a conclusion on it. That's why I'm saying I think we can release it.
I
Okay.
don't think, because
Not yet,
we haven't. I would wait.
No?
not yet. It doesn't matter. It really
So
doesn't matter.
the 28th
I
was,
don't know what we left open.
Well, we're still,
I haven't gotten town council, I
Yeah, we
haven't gotten
have-
town
still-
council's comments for consideration.
about the roadway, about the old right of way.
Whatever, okay.
okay.
Yeah.
But in terms of the content of the executive minutes,
They're open, they're mine,
they're
minutes are
fine.
fine, yeah.
That's fine.
Okay,
So for fixing it so it's okay, and when you can release it, you can do that.
yeah, so can I have a motion to approve the executive session minutes? The minutes for the executive session of September 28th, 2022, to approve them as written, but not to release them at this
So
time.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And that's it. Anything else that we need to talk about before I ask for a motion to adjourn? Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second. All those in favor?
Aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.